I am, pal. We're going to go around the world. We're going to go around the world, around the world, around the world. So we're going to stop it right about now. That's China. We don't want there. We're going to go to anywhere in the US, pal. This is an NFL-related discussion. Kevin, when I pitched around the world to you today, I wanted to discuss the political rig job that was Lakers Raptors in the NBA the other day. And then you said, let's discuss the NFL. Because apparently, according to you, the NFL is, quote, allegedly rigged.
Yes.
Kevin, talk to us why. Explain to me, as someone who follows the Tennessee Titans every game, but knows next to nothing about the NFL. Talk to me. Explain why.
I'm going to overuse my joke earlier of John Cena and Wade Barrett. I was John Cena creative meeting saying, Jack, I'm changing this segment, pal. So, yeah, I've seen this discourse going around, kind of leading into the playoffs, basically, is what's going on. All the storylines. It's an NFL season full of storylines, pal. I'm going to pull them up. And while I'm pulling them up, I'm going to explain this, too. Like, I'm seeing this all over social media, this narrative, like, NFL is WWE. Oh my god, when did the NFL become rigged? The NFL's doing storylines better than WWE, pal. And it's just a lot of people voicing their, I don't know, not really frustration, but just kind of pointing out, like, hey, is this rigged? Like, because we've seen some stuff with gambling. You know, we've seen, like, some players are being known to gamble and then perform poorly on purpose to help their parlays. Whatever, we've seen some controversies like that. So, here's the thing where it gets fishy, where people are pointing to the storyline aspect. So the first playoff matchup that I'll bring up is the Chiefs versus the Dolphins. Kansas City Chiefs, Miami Dolphins. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year without Tyreek Hill. The year Tyreek Hill left to go play for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
So the Miami Dolphins and Tyreek Hill are going back to Kansas City to play his old team, a team he won a Super Bowl on, a team that won a Super Bowl without him after he left. Okay, coincidence. Fine. Fair enough. Then the next matchup, the Texans versus the Browns. Houston Texans, Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson, you may have heard of him. Guy who has an affinity for masseuses in the Houston area. He used to play for the Texans. He gets traded to where? The Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
Now the Browns are playing the Texans. Now he's hurt. He's not playing. Joe Flacco's the quarterback, but still. Interesting enough, this could have been decided in the first week of the season. I'm just saying, Roger Goodell could have handed the script and said, all right, Browns Chiefs, pal, or Browns Texans, pal. Deshaun Watson's return back home to Texas. It's also in Houston. So, interesting. All right, then the next one. The Lions, Detroit Lions versus the LA Rams. Oh, I lost you, pal. You're like Sting.
Right.
The lights went out. Yeah, the LA Rams versus the Detroit Lions. The quarterback, Matthew Stafford, got drafted by the Detroit Lions. Now plays for the Los Angeles Rams. Won a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams. Jared Goff, the quarterback of the Lions. Guess what team drafted Jared Goff originally? You want to take a guess?
Enlighten me, pal. Enlighten me. Is it fitting with this trend?
The LA Rams drafted Jared Goff. So now this is a Super Bowl hero, Matthew Stafford, who couldn't win a Super Bowl with Detroit, returning home to play the Detroit Lions, the first round of the playoffs.
So what you're saying is the matchup...
There's more. There's more.
There's more?
Yeah, there's more. Dramatic pause. There's more. So now the number 2 and 7 matchup in the NFC is the Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys head coach is Mike McCarthy. You want to guess what team Mike McCarthy coached before and led them to a Super Bowl?
Couldn't be Green Bay, could it?
Oh, it is, pal. Oh, it is. So the Packers are traveling into Dallas to play their former team and their former head coach in the first round of the playoffs.
There's an awful lot of coincidences there.
Yes.
That's a lot of matchups that are very easily marketable.
Yes.
That could very easily have commercials made and hype generated.
Yes.
That's not just Dallas versus X team who they have no history or real beef or feud or anything with. That's intriguing. And that's what you've just listed. What, 4 or 5 of the matchups? You know, like that's not just like one. Like if it was like, oh yeah, that one you said with Mahomes, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins. If it's just that, it's like, okay, well, and great, that's happening. But you've given me four, so
Yeah.
there's a bit of grounds there. It's not just like a one-off fluke. It's not even a two-off. Like you've listed four things which are awfully convenient from an advertiser's and a marketing point of view.
Yes.
That would make the games easy to, I guess, try and make you want to watch
Yep.
for adverts, commercials, hype. So. I'm not saying one way or the other, but I mean, proof's in the pudding there, like
Yeah, it's interesting, huh?
look, pal, it's a little bit how you doing. It's a little bit how you doing.
How you doing? Enzo Amore. I love that. Yeah, I was trying to think of a
Wow.
storyline for the other games, but there isn't one.
But that's like four of the games. And what
Yeah.
this is 8 playoff games
Six
happening?
games. 6 games.
Oh, it's only 6.
Yep.
So 66.67% of the games, 2/3 of them are awfully
Scott
convenient.
Steiner is here, pal. Scott Steiner is now joined the podcast.
I know, 2/3 of them, pal, 4 of 6. Pal, pulsating. So, pal, you're telling me you're going to be sat there, and if you want to put a parlay on, well, maybe the league's already decided the next week's matchups and potentially.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. There's not really too many storylines that can open up themselves after this one. So maybe it is just a giant coincidence. All these guys are free agents and they go other places, and I don't know. It's very intriguing, pal. The NFL may or may not be rigged. Next week, I want to hear your NBA is rigged scenario. And speaking of the NBA, I want to say this before I forget. I'm sorry. What do you think about Karl Malone and John Stockton reuniting, pal, for a tell-all interview?
Are they talking about basketball or topics that aren't basketball? Because I'd be more interested in hearing them talk about topics that aren't basketball, especially Carl. There's a few questions I'd like him to answer. But Stockton's got some views of his own, which I'd be fascinated to hear him discuss. So,
I'd love to hear him discuss those views with Karl Malone. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, a tell-all interview with two guys who are politically. We talk about matchups that or situations that like the big league, and we discuss the NFL. But in the 90s of the NBA, you think the NBA is sitting there going, "Yeah, we want John Stockton and Karl Malone and Jerry Sloan out in Utah to beat Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls." Of course, they won't. So they were calling illegal defense calls and these ridiculous things in the finals in 1997, 1998. Not saying there was anything going on in those finals, but it was awfully suspicious. Some of those illegal defense calls in games 4 and 5. Interesting.
And don't forget the fact that Jordan was allowed to viciously push off before hitting the game winner against Utah, pal. Don't forget that.
Yeah, he basically punched Hornacek. He just shoved him and then hit the shot. Anyway, it's all for marketing, pal. It's all about making money, pal. The NBA changed the rules to make it easier for Michael Jordan. They changed the rules to make it harder for Wilt Chamberlain. Interesting. Nonetheless, pal, I've lost my train of thought, pal. I'm going off. What was the question?
Oh, it was about Stockton and Malone. But forget it. Let's get out of here, pal. We're out of time.
Yep, pal. Out of time, out of mind. Great stuff. Next week's the Rumble preview, and then we got you'll be in St. Petersburg.
Can't wait,
so exciting.
pal. Peace.